Well, I'll try to be brief, and I'll put this video right below this Golden Pinocchio Award, which Mr. Trump received for really doing great lies on behalf of the fossil fuel industry. It is a recognized accomplishment. Anyway, we have from the first essay a really good sense of the sort of historic background of the disinformation campaign, the reach of it, tobacco, fossil fuel industries, buying off scientists, doing massive public relations, lying, cheating, and just making sure they can keep the profits coming in on their harmful product. And what we're going to do this week is we're going to focus on how these very deeply funded multi-million dollar disinformation campaigns work in the public sphere. So we're going to look at politicians like Mr. Trump, who use those, who's used the talking points that help the that help the fossil fuel industry. We're also going to look at some of his cabinet members and Senator Ted Cruz. He's the one who really takes in millions of dollars from the fossil fuel industry and goes around lying on television about how there's no such thing as climate change. And then we'll have a 6-page essay at 7:15, do the middle of the week. So you might want to do that next weekend. That's why I hope that this is going to guide you well. Keep in mind, you're not reading as much for this essay. The first essay was just getting you grounded in the topic, but you are using a new critical thinking angle, which I'm sure you can keep to, but you just have to remember what your goal is. So let's kind of start here. This first one here, the first discussion, after you read the Luntz report, especially the part on global warming and climate change, which is I think about 137 to 142 or 3, and after you read the Luntz report, then, and that's linked on the first page, I can also link it in here, I'll do that in a little bit. After you read that, I want you to first write about the emotional buttons pushed in the voters. Because keep in mind, these key talking points, and you can write about others, but these, well, I want you to write about 3 of these 5. These key talking points have nothing to do with facts. They have to do with manipulating the voters. Probably 2 basic strategies that work hand in hand. On the one hand, they want to have voters doubt the scientists. In other words, those guys don't know what they're talking about. And on the other hand, they want the voters to be certain about the economic fallout. And so between those two, if the scientists don't know what they're talking about and what the scientists suggest is going to be economically devastating, why do it? And then there are a couple of angles too, resentment. What about China? What about India? Why do we have to do this? Nobody else is. So resentment is big. Mr. Trump really leans on that quite heavily. I guess that's a third wheel. And you'll see as you get into these talking points. And again, focus here on the emotional buttons they push in the voters. This is a messaging strategy. Frank Luntz probably calls thousands of voters and road tests every question to see which ones really hit that button in the voters and turn them against moving to renewables and moving those profits out of the fossil fuel industry's pockets. So this is just focusing on the emotional buttons because that is where we're going with it. You always don't get tangled up in the facts. They're irrelevant. This is about manipulation. And then when you move into discussing Trump's speech from pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, I want you to show how Luntz's talking points, not all of them, but enough of them, show up in Trump's speech. And I want you to look too, if you want, for how the tobacco strategy and the various fallacies show up in Trump's speech. So it's pretty open there, but I do want you to get something from Luntz, and that's the main thing. That's kind of the backbone of the paper. But you can also talk about how what Luntz says is part of the tobacco strategy and also contains a fallacy. And then as we move through then on, respond to your classmates. And then as we move through on Thursday, I've got a lot of videos and things. They're actually kind of fun. Some media people, many members of Trump's cabinet who are basically fossil fuel industry lobbyists. And they're all spinning Luntz talking points or tobacco strategy points. And they're just manipulating the voters and the public right and left. So I want you to write on not all of these, and I forget exactly what the respond to 5 of these, okay, and there are a few extras. So listen to all of them, see which ones you want to respond to. They're really quite good, actually. So you get an idea of how these lies are in action, and it's really kind of exciting, I think, to see how polished these people are. And again, they're not talking about the science. They've rehearsed talking points that will move the voters away from supporting action on climate change. Very smart deception here. And then following that, you should have good content. Respond to your classmates on Friday. And then I do have the prompt for Essay 2, which is due in the middle of the week, Wednesday, 7:15. I wanted to give people enough time, and I also know some people will only have time to write it over the weekend. And then following that, I'll introduce the third project on that Wednesday at 7:15. So I hope this helps you get oriented. Nothing too fancy here. There will be a lot of questions. I'll be in the Zoom session tonight if you want to talk to me about that. Hope this helps.